to the Finance and General Purposes Committee, Monday 30th of October. Just a reminder to councillors that this meeting is being recorded for publication. My mouth is not working today. Publication on the Town Council YouTube channel. Madam Clerk, do we have any apologies for absence?
Apologies received from councillors John Boyd, Jeremy Cottam and Owen Jeffrey.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest. I have one in respect of item 8 on the agenda. The repair from invoice from the Memorial Foundation. I'm a trustee of the Thatcham Memorial Foundation. I am the council's representative on aforesaid organisation and therefore do not consider it to be a pecuniary interest. Therefore, I will be part in any discussions, but with the full agreement of the Vice Chair, Councillor McCann, I will be handing over to him for that particular item. Councillor Lunn.
Yes, item 10, non-pecuniary, just in my role as broad enforcement officer.
Thank you very much. Any other declarations of interest? No. Minutes of the last meeting, 24th of July. Any comments, clarifications required? If not, I will propose from the chair those be accepted as a true record. If that finds a seconder, thank you. Those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Any matters arising from previous minutes, Madam Clerk?
Nothing from me, Chairman.
Thank you very much. We move rapidly and with incredibly good timing to Old Bluecoat School. That's brilliant timing, Mark. Well done. Old Bluecoat School to receive and consider request from aforesaid charity for permission to replace the main entrance doors of the building. Mark, would you like to come? Can I propose from the chair that we don't suspend standing orders now anymore?
Agree to allow.
Agree to allow members of the public to speak. If that finds a seconder, those in favour, thank you. Mark, all yours, sir.
Well, thank you very much for giving the opportunity to explain what we've been up to down at the Bluecoat School. And as it is your property, we thought it was only polite to ask you before we took the cue. Yes, it's been on our list for a while that the doors are old, leaky, damaged and beyond repair. So we've raised the money to replace them. We found a local contractor. And we think we have listed building consent for it. So I think we've ticked all the boxes needed to do this legally, properly and sensibly. And as I said, as owners of the building, we thought it was right for you to ask you whether you consented to it.
Thank you very much. And employing John Cook. Don't have to declare an interest in that. They're a former customer of mine, but until I retired, they're not. Employing them. Any questions from any? Ian?
So I assume it is a heritage building.
Yep. It's grade 1 listed.
Grade 1 listed.
Grade 1 listed, yeah.
And have the appropriate authorities who need to approve the design and the materials been contacted, and have they given their green light that this complies with all the regulations from, is it Heritage UK? Is it English Heritage?
Well, we put in listed building consent to West Berkshire Council. I gave a copy of the approval and the conditions. So we believe we have complied with all heritage requirements.
We're just waiting for say that it does comply.
No, we have the approval. We have the approval. I submitted the papers to say we really it was as long as we put it back much as it is now.
Yeah,
they have no objection, which is our plan anyway.
Good.
Just
Yeah, so
The original planning permission was granted in December 2020, and then the final listed buildings consent obtained in January this year. How come it's taken so long for it to come before committee?
Well, we put in the original listed building application was for a whole raft of things, including our dream of replacing the internal toilets and various other factors. So we've been getting on with that. So technically we have started on the works that were agreed by West Berkshire. And it was then the finance. So we thought we'd try the next one on our list, which was the door. And we were very pleasantly surprised by the generosity of various bodies in the area. So that's why we're doing it now.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So I'm assuming from that response that as far as you're concerned, the development's already started for the purposes of the kind of the 3-year limitation once original planning permission is granted. So we're not worried about the clock running down essentially.
No.
3 years takes us to the 21st of December, which isn't far away.
Well, we did start, one of the items was to actually replaster the external door, which there's what's known as the priest door on the south side, which was bricked up whenever. And we wanted to put a render coat on it to try and keep the rain out of it. So that was part of the original planning application or consent application. So that was done a year ago, year and a half ago. So we have started.
Any other questions?
One very minor thing. Well, congratulations on getting planning permission and getting it through the system. It is quite a convoluted process. It does say on condition 4 on your LBC 2 that you need, even though you have permission, and this is an issue I've walked into with them, is to say you need to get them, you need to resubmit your information. Do you read it the same way, or are you reading it as we currently have permission, which is correct, but then the condition says no work shall commence to the entrance door until they have seen the detailed drawings? I'm not trying to throw a spanner, but I'm more asking a question.
It's as you say, it's convoluted. Yes. The original planning application, and I don't have. It's in the letter we had. Was 3 years ago. The condition 4 was that drawing which was submitted on the screen, and it was that drawing which was approved in 2020.
December January it came through the month after it, yeah.
So we did go back a second time to the conservation officer. But it's a fair question, it is complicated. We don't want to upset anyone, but
no, absolutely, and best of luck. Good work there.
Any other questions? No, well, as Tom said, congratulations to actually getting planning permission. Listed building, getting planning permission, and doing anything.
They were very helpful. That was the problem. It's raising the money that we thought would be the issue.
Excellent.
Very generous people in this area.
Okay.
Excellent. With no other questions, I propose from the chair that we grant the permission sought. If that finds a seconder. Thank you. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did the permission duly thank you.
Opening next spring.
Excellent.
I'm not a celebrity.
We may have
Make sure it's before the 5th of May or something. I get the mayor doing it.
I'd be delighted.
Thanks. Right, now come on to the budget report, line by line. You may have seen an email from me to Mary. She sent out the budget report, which is sort of 23 pages normally, 24 pages, sorry, long one. That I had asked her if she would run a different report than we have had last time, which we should also have, which is the one that is portrait rather than landscape.
Chair, is that item 6B?
There's 6A.
6A?
Yeah. That was sent as a separate
I might have to get
email. There are paper copies up there. The reason why I've asked Mary to do this one is it has the percentage spent rather than the other one where you would have to actually sit down with the calculator on every line.
It's 6 months, you just double.
Well, yes. But then you've got to take away.
Yeah.
I'm a simple soul. Maths has never been my strong point. Almost as good as accountants in that respect. So it's this one we are. I'm going to concentrate on if that is okay. So we've got page 1. I would just say that the overall percentage spent on the staffing line, I'm not sure that the last month's salary may have been put through if it's 36%. But I just would say I have asked Mel to ask Mary just for a breakdown because the salaries I would estimate would be tracking at about 5% below the equivalent half-year budget. We're actually about 3% below. The reason I would expect them to track about 5% below is that we know we've got a pay rise coming, and we'd factored in a 5% pay rise. So there's a little bit of discrepancy on that, which I've just asked if an officer can look at that before the next F&GP meeting. It's not vastly different, but if she can do that, that would be wonderful. I'll probably just go down these and please shout if there are any questions.
Election expenses, I did take an action last meeting to face up. I did. They told me they will recharge when they're ready. So the bill will arrive.
In the
Which side of Christmas? I have no idea.
It's in our bank account, earning money.
Exactly.
They know about it, so we've done all that we can. So I don't mind earning interest on West Berkshire's money. That's absolutely fine. The one that leaps out a little for me on page 1 is the civic regalia at 492%. Is that the long service awards, Madam Clerk, you know?
It is, Chairman. It's the Long Service Awards and the newly designed Town Councillor badges.
Ah, okay. Thank you. Again, not a huge sum, but large in percentage terms. Any other points, Madam Clerk, on page 1 of my sheet? Not
Yeah, I'm using the other one. Just to point out a couple of things, public relations 4034 is over. That is because we have paid for an advert in the town guide that we have commissioned. So, and that was after budget setting. 4060, there's a figure there that is a miscode, so that will disappear in the next report. And the £40 on line 4203, sorry, is the previous mayor's awards. Yeah, and that's it. Everything else is.
Thank you. Any other points of questions on page 1 of the sheet that we have? Page 2, which is the balance of the grants, the detached youth work, street lighting and street furniture from your printout, Madam Clerk. Anything on there that you want to?
Nothing
to our
for me to
attention.
point out.
So the Kennet Leisure Centre, we give that grant right at the end of the year, do we, or beginning of next financial year, calendar year rather?
It sometimes actually comes in after the year is closed. I think it did last year.
Yeah, very
Um,
close to year end.
And is that a contractual or we just?
Yes.
Good contract.
I can't remember whether it's that one that's capped or the Hennick one that's capped.
Yeah.
There's two figures that we give, and I think it's Kennet that's capped. Hennick, technically speaking, is open-ended, which is why we're always a bit nervous about that one.
And do we know what line 4801 is used for? Grant. And is it just for the upkeep of the memorial, or is that?
It's the insurance, so the foundation take out the insurance policy for the war memorial, and then we give them a grant to cover the cost of that.
Right.
That goes back Lord knows how many years from when the war memorial was moved from the Broadway to the present location. The detached youth work, Madam Clerk, obviously way below where we would expect it to be.
It is, that contract has actually run its course now, Chairman, and that is something that the Youth Working Party will be discussing on Wednesday when we meet.
Okay, thank you. Any other items on page 2? No, thank you. We'll move on to page 3. Again, Madam Clerk, anything?
Just CCTV line 4042. Reactive maintenance is over budget. Unfortunately, just a sign of aging infrastructure, I'm afraid. So we will need to look at budgeting for replacement relatively soon on that, but it's just costing a little more this year to keep it maintained and up and running.
Thank you. Any other questions on page 3 from councillors?
Yeah, our electricity, is it up for renewal soon, or are we a fixed rate contract, or are we on the variable one?
With their fixed rate, they renewed earlier this year.
Right, so we're not going to be getting a bill shock with rate unless the renewed earlier this year means that we'll be paying really the standard rate.
They were on, but they renewed at the more increased rates earlier this year. Yeah.
Just working out whether or not we're going to see a spike if it's a higher rate, but if it's being budgeted for, it should be fine.
Hopefully.
Okay. Any other questions on page 3? If not, we'll move on to 4. Again, Madam Clerk, anything? Moving now on to events primarily.
I haven't assessed them, Chairman. The events committee is meeting next week. So I will leave any assessment of those to the events committee, as the events manager will be able to answer them far better than I can.
Okay, fine.
It's good to see how much sponsorship income we've got above budget, so that's nice, nice little bumps.
Yeah, that's extremely good. Christmas obviously hasn't taken place yet, so not really much to say on that one. Ditto, Remembrance Day, United Service of Remembrance came slightly under budget, and start a family fund on page 5 for the get to the beef of that. Again, sponsorship was over and above, which is good. Any other questions on page 5? No, we'll move on to page 6, which is the remainder of the fund day, which the one thing that doesn't appear on the actual year to date there is the very rough staff salary allocation that we do. So that's going to push the net expenditure up to 27,400 as opposed to budgeted 29,887. So I came in under budget on the fund day.
Who provided the first aid cover? Because there's no cost. Did we get that free of charge from Saints? What's it called?
John's.
John's, that's the word. Yeah, John's.
So that family fun day.
Yeah, no first aid cover.
I've got a feeling St John weren't able to do it this year, and John had to find a alternative provider.
So there may be an invoice coming in for that.
Yes. But we definitely had first aid there.
Yeah, so I was saying that's why I saw the 0 there.
Yeah.
But maybe something missing there.
And unless that's going to be 2,500, we'll still be in under budget, which is good. Special events. Every time I ask what the special events budget is, I do
That
apologise.
was coronation.
Coronation. That was it. Tom.
Yep, thank you. Can I just, the forecasted indirect expenditure sort of, and on, sorry, we're talking about the fund day. Before we moved on to the special. You've got on here in line 5,006, 20,000 is the salaried income. But on your pie chart, it's suggesting that we're not quite there on that. It says it's for the last 6 months, it's about £8,500. Are we expecting to pay more money out? Another £12,000 in salary allocations? Do you see what I mean?
Just to explain this salary allocation, every year as a purely desktop exercise, each member of staff is asked roughly what time they spent on each section of the budget. Rough and ready. We certainly don't keep timesheets or anything similar. That then percentage is then applied to the overall salary bill for that particular individual. And that is the amount that goes into the budget. So it's not an exact figure by any stretch of the imagination. The only real reason we have it in there is to give a true picture on things like allotments and cemeteries, where if we didn't have the staff allocation in there, it would look, for example, as though we were making a profit on the cemeteries, which would be hard to justify. Actually, we are making a deficit on the cemeteries by the time we take staff costs into account. I can't think there's going to be any more money that's going to be spent out over and above what's already in the budget.
Yeah, just to clarify, so effectively, if there's 3 officers working on it and it's 10% of each of their time, then it'll be 10% of each of their wages for each month for the year, just divided by 12. And then it pops up as an end number.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly that. Central services, bottom of page 6, start of page 7. Any questions on that one? Got anything to comment on?
Just the one, and that is, no, a couple of actually, but both related. Overspend on 4006 protective clothing. We've obviously had some new members of staff coming in who needed workwear for events. And similarly, 4030 recruitment advertising, that was over budget. That's because we had to do an extended campaign for the events officer.
Thank you. Any other questions on page 7?
Overtime. What the budget was. What's driven the overtime? So line 4.
Are you looking at 22-23?
Actually, year to date, £2,804 compared to 1,500 quid.
Ah, yes.
Sorry?
I don't know whether this whether the finance manager has processed this yet, but all of the overtime had gone to one place, to 190, rather than it being split for events and things.
Right.
So I would suggest that is due to be journaled out of there.
Right, so that'll be proper job there. Yeah.
We'll check with them.
And the processes, do people have to have it pre-approved?
Yes, by line managers.
Line managers.
Yeah. But there's a combination of some overtime is paid and some of it is a toil.
Right. So right, understood. It's a bit more difficult for your overtime to be pre-approved by, like, for example.
I think
I don't do it.
Okay.
I don't get over.
We don't get so okay. Right. Okay, your page.
Managers get.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
We only get to it.
That's what I say. It's a bit more difficult. Yeah.
any other questions on page 7? Page 8. Pleasing to note the letting income on Birdwood Centre. But before we get to that, professional fee. Clark, line 4060 under central services.
That is okay. So the 39. It's difficult walking off of 2 different reports here.
3982 actual year to date, 3,500 budget.
Yes, so the committed doesn't show on there possibly, but the committed for 4333 is the buildings conditions survey that has been undertaken, but we are waiting for the report, so we haven't been invoiced for that yet. And the actual year to date is our annual HR support contract was the solicitor's fees for drawing up the workshop lease, and also our HR employment service that we've recently used, the charge.
Thank you. Any other questions on page 8?
Having my other hat on, there's been big debate regarding audit fees, and we've had a nearly 200% increase from Grant Thornton coming from state government. Do we have a choice of who our auditors are, or do we? Is it? I suppose it's not the same level of detail which down the road have to have, or as I say, do we have a choice of who our auditors are?
We don't have a choice on the external auditor.
Yeah.
They are appointed. Use them. We do have a our own choice of internals.
Yeah.
And we are in a 3-year.
Yeah.
agreement.
Yeah. So just to flag up, potentially we may be getting a huge, well, a big increase in our external audit bill. So my officer has been writing to the Secretary of State to say this is absolutely ridiculous. Literally, it's a 200% increase in rentals and fees with no recourse or competition. It's just, yeah, bonkers.
So
So hopefully we don't have the same impact here.
Worth bearing in mind for budget setting for next year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Any other questions on page 8?
Just ask 4915 transfer to RCP budget provision.
that is the topping up of the rolling capital fund. Yeah, it's just a sort of internal transfer from one budget to another.
And then the rolling capital fund is used for, as is indicated, things that we can't use SIL for, like the upgrade of the IT, etc. So, all the questions on page 8. Move on to page 9. And Madam Clerk, anything to bring to our attention?
A very, very minor miscode on health and safety 4017. So that will be corrected for the next report. Publicity is the banners that we purchased to go on external wall of the hall. Both Birdwood and Frank Hutchins, the music licenses have been higher than budget this year. Unfortunately, there is it's compulsory. We have to have one.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on page 9? We'll to page 10. Yeah, Clark, anything on your side?
No, Chairman.
Vandalism under the moors, is any of that, will any of that be insurance claims, would you think? 1490?
Yes, we had the insurance money. This was for obscene graffiti. We had the insurance money in last financial year, but the contractor wasn't able to do the work until this financial year.
And again, relatively small sum, but service contracts 4037 under the moors. Including committee with about 100% of target already.
That one. There we go. Pick that one up or ask the on that one.
If we can leave that with you, Justin.
Mm.
Any other questions on page 10? On to page 11.
So,
Sorry.
Gareth. Yeah, so a revenue stream which we see here, which is above budget regarding the cemetery. Maybe a bit of a morbid question, but how much room do we have left in the cemetery? Because obviously this is a revenue stream which will eventually run out in its current 10 years, 20 years, which is within our budget. And it's quite a substantial revenue stream which we'd have to find an alternative for. What would be the plans?
We estimate between 10 and 20 years left,
Right.
space wise. So it is on the forward planning list that we do need to start thinking about additional land in the future.
Right.
We do have one entire sweep of the cemetery all the way up.
Yeah.
Plus another, must be about half. That's for the burials, obviously they take dance out more space than cremations.
Cremations.
But it's I always say it's the one line you don't really want to see over budget in terms of income. But actually, this year the trend on right of burial fees has been going down every year, and this year for some reason it's gone back up again.
So what proportion of the capacity that we have left is pre-allocated, it's pre-booked?
Not that high,
Not that
I'd
much.
say. I'd say less than 10% probably.
I think from memory it tends to be where either husband or wife has died and husband or wife wants to be buried next to them, so that one plot is left vacant to receive the other partner in fullness of time.
So it sounds as if we will need to think about making provision, not now, but in fullness of time, of finding suitable land, surveys, purchase, which I can't imagine is going to be that cheap.
Neither cheap nor easy to.
So what are we building up a provision at the moment?
No. That's a fair question, though. Very fair question.
So maybe something to think about the next budget of £5,000 a year or whatever it is. I have no idea what it would be. So,
I feel it would be actually more than that. But if we're talking about between 5 and 20 years, then probably at least double that. So we'll make a note and build that into the process.
You don't want to have a big shock and then you're £500,000 or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. No, very good point. Any other questions on page 11? Page 12. Again, Madam Clerk, anything? No, okay. Any questions on page 12? Page 13. The page of expenditures. Anything, Madam Clerk?
No, Chair.
Turnfields, the grounds maintenance again there in
Oh yes, that is
the inspection contract.
This is something that I do need to raise this evening. The maintenance of Jubilee Garden, since it's had its overhaul, the maintenance has increased. So the projected year-end figure on that budget line is 4640 against a budgeted 3,000. Simply because it's taking.
Which line is that?
Maintenance. So it under cost centre 265, Turner Fields, it's line 4039.
Okay. And that's going to be 46 something.
4640.
Bad chunk, isn't it?
Is it?
Essentially a consequence of the improvements that we've
It is.
made there and
Yeah.
additional payments to.
Okay.
Regard. I think that's kind of we have to set that one up as the expression goes. Any other questions on page 13? Page 14, just the little bits of those to and from reserves. My usual caveat to the income over expenditure with rather large amount of caution because the staff has one gone in there yet. But we have done line by line analysis of it and therefore then the summary, which is always skewed because we pay rates in one lump and there here are. If there are no other questions on the budget report, we'll move on to the reserves and little money. Just as before you, obviously a few changes with two bits of expenditures. The one, addition. Anything to bring to our attention on there? Any questions on the reserves and just a comment on the still and probably a request to the finance portfolio holder at West Berkshire. The workers seems to have started on the lower way development.
That's my ward,
Yeah, your ward. Wonder whether there was any what the money had been
I'll find out.
agreed if you could find out. So there were a couple over the last few years where the amount of SIL money seemed to be low.
Yes, it's 91 dwellings. Thereabouts, anyway. Yeah.
Just in terms of our forward planning for what we may have coming through to be able to benefit our residents. If there's no questions on the reserves and SIL, we'll move on to Treasury Management Plan. Madam Clerk, would you talk us through this and the changes that have been?
Yes. Thank you, Chairman. So this is the first time that we have presented it this financial year. It's the first time we presented it as a management plan. Previously, these were standalone policies, but it makes much better sense for them all to be in one document because they all link in with each other. So this has been prepared by myself, the finance manager and the chairman. It's been back and forth between us a few times, hasn't it? And we feel that it's a good governing document. It would need to be adopted by full council if committee was minded to recommend it.
The questions?
To ask you some questions, yeah. So, I mean, it's well known that it takes a certain amount of running time to get investments approved and set up because of the type of account that we're asking for as an unincorporated association. So, like, for example, if I look at some of the, one of the investment reserves, the account held with Lloyds Bank, so that's maturing next month. It's currently paying 2.6%. So I guess my first question is, I assume we've got a plan to deal with that. Is that something that's been discussed with the investment working party? And presumably we're working on the assumption that we can get a better rate now.
Yeah.
So that seems quite low.
Second question, yes. The Lloyds one actually is the projected rates that were sent through to the investment working party were actually a little bit lower than some of the other investments that we have. The recommendation would probably be that we keep a small balance with Lloyds, purely and simply to keep that account open and the options open. Because as you say, town councils don't exist as far as an awful lot of banks are concerned, and therefore opening one with a new provider is always very tricky.
So when we know that investments are maturing, what sort of running period do we allow for? So in other words, when do we start looking to kind of reinvest that or see what other rates are available before that maturity date?
We tend to be looking a month out. It's actually reminded me that with that Lloyds one, we were going to have an investment working party, which Mary was setting up.
Yes.
So we need to get that set up if we could.
Yeah.
Fairly shortly.
It's long enough. That just gives us enough time.
It does if it's a renewal.
Yeah.
If you are taking money out of if a product is maturing, if an account is maturing, and you're then looking to place it somewhere else. If the somewhere else is something where you already have an account, fine. If the somewhere else is with another institution, then but there's no guarantee that 3 months will be long enough.
Yeah.
Are we subject to the £85,000 guarantee from the government? Are we within that scope?
You have been assured in the past that we are. I'm not 100% sanguine because we are neither fish nor fowl nor good red herring.
We've got 2 investments above that 85,000.
Yeah.
Will not be. Believe that to be appropriate risk management, but as you say, if it's not clear whether or not we have that protection.
The protection that we have, which again is in the management plan, is that we don't put stuff with Icelandic banks and various other things. So I know there always has been comment by some councillors that I can get another 0.5% here and there and everywhere. We basically tend to go with, it used to be Fitch AAA rated, but quite a lot of most of the high street banks are no longer Fitch AAA rated, so it's not really appropriate. But as far as, well, I'd say as far as possible, we do invest with.
Who are Close Brothers? I've never heard of Close Brothers. Close Brothers. Yeah, who are they?
Yeah, they're a large firm. They started off as a invoice finance about 40 years ago, and have diversified over the years.
Right.
I couldn't tell you what their latest Fitch rating was, or their latest rating was, but we looked at it when we renewed.
You were happy enough, yeah.
Tom.
It's more of a question. The question is, on Schedule A of approved banks, we have a list of 17. How many do we actually use?
At the moment, we use 4.
I don't know what the process is to become an approved bank for a town council. Is that a long-winded process? Do we have accounts with all 17?
No.
Okay, so
They are the ones that we would be okay putting money within the investment criteria.
that's exactly what I thought, but bearing in mind the amount of time that it takes for your earlier, with bearing in mind your earlier comments about how difficult it is it realistic to have a list of 17 of which we know 5 or 6 will probably never give us a bank account if we asked them anyway? That was merely.
Probably you are quite right. Justin?
And just sort of feeding into sort of Tom's point there, it's probably more of a controversial comment, this one, but in terms of the council's approach, we've got the 3 bullet points there, A, B and C. I wonder whether there's scope to add into that B, consideration of that financial institution's environmental credentials. It's obviously something that's come up in the environmental working party, but it might actually lead to that schedule of banks being slimmed down, which from what we've discussed wouldn't cause us a problem.
No.
And I don't think that needs to necessarily cut across the return and the financial return, but I think it would give some members comfort if that provision was in there, if I'm honest with you.
It is something that actually is taken into account with the information that the finance officer gives us.
So can we get it added into?
Actually, since I think it's,
I'm just trying to find
I
it.
think it has been added in. It was
So there we go.
added in.
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
just before.
3.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so
Hold on, click. Did we highlight that in the summary then? Because it maybe just have got lost in 3. Which number in 3? 5, 6, 7, 8?
At the top of the page, above paragraph 5.
council will consider. Yeah. I don't know if it makes any practical difference, but can we not add it as a bullet point into the
Onto the short list of,
approach?
yeah,
If it doesn't make any difference practically,
and we're doing it anyway. Yeah.
Can we add? I don't know.
Yeah.
Can I just, where is that list of bullet points?
Yeah, so section 4 Treasury Management Arrangements, 3rd sort of main paragraph, the council's approach.
Second ABCs.
Possibly because it's got it up.
Okay, because this is 3 different.
I've got it on my screen as well.
Yeah. Page 10, which is the second set of ABC, I believe.
Okay.
All right.
And I think what's being suggested is that what we currently do be identified specifically as a D.
Just add it in.
And it is part of the report anyway, but therefore, is that a summary of what you were?
Yeah, exactly. Just so it's there, black and white. Council shall have regard to environmental credentials of these financial institutions.
Certainly have absolutely no problem with.
And environmental working party would be better pleased. Little win.
Are there any other thoughts or amendments before we recommend to full council, assuming that you wish to recommend to full council? With that one alteration. Are there any other points? In which case, I would recommend with that alteration, just that we recommend to full council for adoption, if that finds a seconder. Thank you. Those in favour? Thank you very much. Next item is the invoice from the Memorial Foundation. And at this point in time, I relinquish the chair to the esteemed vice chairman.
Yeah. At this point, I'd like to open up item 8 up for discussion. Do members have any points that they would particularly like to raise under this section.
Without wishing to chair by proxy, Chair, I suggest Town Clerk gives us a bracey of
Absolutely. Yeah. So formally.
So the water supply to the council offices and to the cricket club is part of a main supply that comes in off of the A4 and then splits off into spurs to feed us, the Memorial Hall, Bowls Club, Scout Hut, all of those. The infrastructure is managed by the Memorial Foundation. And back in the summer, there was an underground leak. It was identified that this leak was on the spur that feeds the council offices and the cricket club. The repair was undertaken by the Memorial Foundation and the whole invoice has been recharged to the town council. In our budgets, we only allow for reimbursement to the foundation of the water charges. There's no provision for repair costs. Hence why the invoice has been brought before committee to seek approval for payments.
Excellent, thank you. Ian.
Point of clarification. So when we say the spur, is it one pipe which goes to the town council office and then goes on to the cricket club, or is it the same pipe which then splits again? You know, see what I mean?
I'm not sure.
I think it's one pipe which goes to the town council office and then goes on to cricket club. So I don't think it's a pipe which subsequently splits again, unless you know differently.
Could I ask you a question? When the town council closed because it didn't have water, did it disrupt your system?
Yes.
So whether it's ours or if you're ahead of the pipe, cut off, turn left, and we're last on the line either way, it blocks both no matter which it happens.
There is a reason why I'm asking that question, which I'll come on to looking at the lease.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. Do you know the answer?
I don't, I'm afraid.
Are you aware of the answer?
No. Because what happened
We have a diagram from Thames Water indicating the waste in and waste out and pipes in and pipes out, because that would give you
the answer.
The answer, I believe.
Because at the moment, under the lease, the water bill which comes in, it's charged 90%, 10% between the town council. So it would indicate there's one pipe. I must admit, I have no idea how they.
I honestly have no idea, Chair.
Okay. I think your point is actually well made, that we should have a record of our services in and services out, where they go. Because if it does happen in the future, it's not unreasonable for members to know, and in fact, for the officers to know what's running in and where, and also perhaps ask the cricket club, are you on a meter or something there, or you're just literally, it is quite a.
So the current arrangement for water consumption, as the clerk indicated, this
agreed.
Well, it's not even agreed, it's informal. So what happens is there is 1 meter which measures the total water flow into the site. So all of the units on this particular site have been the town council office, the pavilion for the cricket club, the scouts, the mem hall, the bowls club. Gets metered and gets cross-charged based upon, I think there seem to be some way which the mem hall does the cross-charging. I'll have a quick look. I think he does a reconciliation.
Yeah. As I'll probably verify, we do get confirmation, documentary confirmation, sometimes with chasing, from the MEM Foundation. We have looked in the past with Thames Water at getting our own supply in, which at the time when we last looked was about 18,000 quid to get our own supply from the road. We have asked, and I think it's worth asking again, whether we can actually get our own meter into that pipe that is coming to the cricket club, and possibly get a meter on the cricket club and a meter on the town council offices as well. There is also no formal agreement with the Memorial Foundation. So although I would personally recommend paying the invoice, it's work that we knew was done, that was verified by the services officer. I think it has to be, I would recommend that it was subject to the agreement of the Memorial Foundation that we should actually obtain a formal agreement, so that things like this do not come up as a matter for debate or dispute. It would be an agreement for the water supply and an agreement for the for any repairs. That won't come as a shock to them. In fact, I've discussed that with the chairman of the foundation anyway, who is also in favour of it. And indeed, the Bowls Club and the Scouts, when they had their new leases from the foundation, the water supply was actually included in those leases as a specific agreement. So it may well just be as simple as lifting that agreement, us checking it with our own solicitors and incorporating that as an agreement with the foundation.
Okay, that doesn't seem an unreasonable way forward.
Just out of curiosity to understand the process. As far as the land is concerned, the Memorial Hall leased the land from us?
The Memorial Foundation own the Memorial Field, the car park, and the land on which the tennis courts, the Bowls Club, and the Scouts hut.
They own all the land, and they own the land where the problem is.
Yeah.
Has been identified as being.
Yeah, the water's, the single water supply comes into Memorial
The land.
Foundation land, and then it's spread out on.
It's not uncommon. It's not.
They own the land where the tennis courts is, which is where the problem has been identified as actually having been.
That's
under their land.
That's roughly where the split is of the pipes.
Okay, I think it's certainly worthwhile looking at what other agreements have been put in place. We may have to have a think about whether or not we want to go metering ours, and then we suggest.
Yeah, I'm just looking, I've got a document which has come from Nathan from the Manhole, which dates back a couple of years. And he has a way of identifying the number of units which have been cross-charged to the Bowling Green, to Thatcham Town Council, the Scout Hut and Memorial. So there is a way in which he's done some sort of allocation. So there must be a meter which he has somewhere.
Oh, they have a meter, I think. I'm not absolutely 100% sure how that is then cross-charged over. Our finance officer did look at it. We have an invoice that was unpaid for quite some time while she was looking at it and getting more information from the Memorial Foundation. So she looked at it as part of her due diligence when she took on the finance manager.
I don't hear any members suggesting that we are actively exploring running our own pipe water mains. I don't hear that as a reasonable way forward.
It would be lovely, Chair. It would be absolutely delightful.
It's not,
whether £18,000 is a good use of public money to get our own supply, I don't know.
it doesn't seem unreasonable that with members' approval, then are we looking at throwing in a meter here, so we know what we're being charged for, which is not unreasonable. Yes.
It is technically possible to put in a meter which has the supply coming in, which isn't for billing purposes.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's
We can work out what are
exactly.
important.
It's won't cost that much, a couple £100 if that. I think 100 quid for the meter, 100 quid for a plumber.
Yeah.
It's dead easy.
Exactly.
With that coming in, you just
Yeah, and I believe it, and not speaking on behalf of the cricket club, I'm sure that would not be an unreasonable thing for them to.
Yeah, we've
to actively consider.
Absolutely.
That may throw up some questions about charging in the future, but that's something we'll have to think about later on.
Which goes back to my earlier point.
What's the
Is it
formula?
one pipe which comes in, which then does a loop across, or does the pipe split again into?
It's what perhaps we should just ask the town clerk to ask someone to find out where the pipes run, because I believe Thames Water do have a lot of it's online anyway. And while the pipes might be down 20+ years, they should have a reasonable diagram that they could at least upload and forward to both the cricket club as well.
Yeah.
For theirs, because it's not a bad thing in that respect. So I will need some directions, members.
Well, there's two other bits which I would like to add. It's whether or not we believe a 20% admin fee is reasonable.
Okay.
On top of that, and the second thing with a hat is whether or not we then recharge an element of this to the cricket club. Looking at the lease, it does state any additional water charges incurred by or levied on either party to this lease as a result of a burst pipe or other similar occurrence. Similar occurrence shall be the sole responsibility of the party which suffered the said burst pipe leak or similar occurrence. So if the pipe goes straight to the town council, according to the lease, we can't recharge it.
Yeah. Brilliant. Before we move any further forward.
Yeah, I suppose I've got a couple of issues with this. Firstly, it doesn't appear that there's any kind of formal agreement around how these situations are dealt with, and that's really, really unsatisfactory. Okay. You know, Mike made the point about, you know, taxpayers' money. It's going to cost an arm and a leg to have our own water supply, but you know, we're talking about £1,400 here. That's taxpayers' money too. The bill that's just been landed on us with no consultation whatsoever. I suspect we have to pay it, because if we don't pay it, that's going to cause other complications, right? But as Mike has said, we must have an agreement about how these kind of issues in the future are dealt with, because otherwise we're going to keep finding ourselves back in the room, having conversations about whether they're going to pay a substantial amount of money.
Excellent. Yeah. Just bear with me for a second, please.
I would second what Justin is saying.
So we've agreed that we've got a set of drawings to know what's coming in. We've agreed that we need some sort of agreement on future actions and future responsibilities and liabilities. That's
Maybe very harsh to say this after that. Where's the proof that it did? What's our point? It's just taken my word. We have to take on task, haven't we? Or we.
I think the clerk will confirm that Kent, our services officer, actually viewed the pipe.
looked in the hole of the That's definitely all, that's definitely water. Okay. Mike.
Could I make a proposal, Chair?
Of course.
Could I propose that we pay the invoice as is, but subject to confirmation from the chair of the Memorial Foundation that he is in agreement to us negotiating an appropriate agreement to cover water supply and future repairs. The actual agreement, putting that into place, would obviously take some time and a lot of backwards and forwarding. But if we at least get his formal agreement, which he has given to me verbally, that he would also like an agreement. I think he's also, the amount of time that he spends doing the recharges and whatever, so I think it would be in his own best interest and the foundation's best interest as well. To have an agreement. So if he can confirm that he is willing to enter into an agreement with us on appropriate terms to be discussed, then on that basis I would recommend paying the invoice.
And that would include the administration fees?
You know, we charge on the other way.
Yeah.
We charge them an administration fee. Admittedly, I think it's 10% rather than 20%.
10% of the total. That's okay.
Can I possibly add something to what Michael just said? Part of that is making sure they have insurance which covers this eventuality. Because I alluded to earlier that as chair of the club, our insurance would have covered this eventuality that's on our land. Surely the Memorial Hall should have had insurance which covered the pipe on their land.
That's a perfectly valid point.
And I think it's, for me, it's a bit of an oversight that they did not have the policy in place which covers this eventuality. So we've taken all of the risk without any control. So we've been landed with something which we've had no way of preventing from happening. So it's the jury's still out from my perspective, what actually caused this particular leak breaking the thing was there. Was it wear and tear, or was it heavy machinery which was going over that particular land, piece of land to the field? Was it the fairground? Was it?
I'm sorry. It's one of the four. Sorry, it's one of the fourth point for me was there may be some extremely large lorries going over that section, and if it has caused that, then it might pop it rear its head up again as an issue for us to bear in mind. I think we've more or less come to an agreement and sort of informed. And number one is we want some drawings of what's coming in and what's going out. I think that's not unreasonable. And number two, that we enter into some agreements and formalise the agreement and an agreement, which is not dissimilar to the other parties. So we don't draft something overly spectacularly complicated and convoluted, because there are smaller organisations that don't have the same administrative support as we do. So I think that would be not unreasonable as well. That we make payment and that we have some sort of informal conversation about the future works. Is that likely to have an impact on the services that run across to us?
Because we've got a flood alleviation scheme potentially going to be going straight over that pipe again. Are we going to be in 6 months? What does it mean in 6 months' time? In 3 months' time, having exactly the same issue again.
I think your point about insurance as part of the agreement should be part of that agreement, that there is insurance for, because I'm sure if there's lorries running over your services and it causes damage, then the insurance simply charges the appropriate party as and when.
And the Memorial Foundation may not agree to some of those clauses, so they may not agree to put insurance in place, for example. We don't know, right, until absolutely. So when the agreement's reached, can it come back to committee? Is that something we can vote on again?
After any of it, if they're contracts, so it's would be reasonable. So could we have an update for the next F&G phase? If there could be something for the next, not this full council, but we would be looking to tidy this up and get some sort of agreement by the next full council. Would that be enough timeline? Because otherwise this thing can drag on to January, February, and then we're into lorries moving up and down and stuff like that. As the members agreed with a sort of timeline that we can bring this to conclusion. Yeah. Yes.
I see lots of nodding heads. Excellent. That's fantastic. Yeah. Does that help you? Okay, so I'll propose that we get a set of drawings or access information and services coming into and leaving facilities. That we enter into, we start negotiations to enter an agreement with the Memorial Foundation, and that we make full payment to the invoice before us, and that we consider the implications once we have the drawings of services and the possible service disruption through the possible new future works. Okay, you got a seconder for that? Mike's quite clear.
Can I abstain from the vote?
I think that would be a not unreasonable.
There's too many facts which I have on this particular. With also
Actually, yes, theoretically, no, I can't.
Oh, you can't be just. Even better, even better. Mark, would you set your second?
Second that, Chair.
Two members are not taking part of the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. There is no one against, therefore that is carried. And thank you very much for your cooperation. I hand you back.
Eight minutes on next one is a referral from Planning and Highways. Madam Clerk, do you want to talk to this one?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. That this was appeared on this agenda. The premises licence application was received after the agenda for Planning and Highways had been published. But the response deadline was before the next Planning and Highways meeting. We contacted West Berks officers and there was no opportunity to respond beyond that date. So the best way to have dealt with this was that the application was considered by Planning and Highways, but because it hadn't received the legally required notice, PNH have made a recommendation to this committee that the application, that no objections be raised to it. So to summarise the application, it's Kennet Crayfish Company. They have an existing outlet on Lower Way Farm. The premises licence is for the distribution and collection of online orders. It's not a shop front. All orders will be placed online and then either posted, couriered, whichever, collected. The operation for people collecting will be 9 AM to 4 PM Monday to Friday. There's no on-site consumption. And it's for distribution of gin. And the gin is prepared off-site in Leeds.
Thank you. Obviously, we have a recommendation from PNH. Are we happy to accept the recommendation with the further info? Okay, so the chair that we raise no objection to the application. That has a seconder. Those in favour? Thank you. Those against? Abstentions? Oh, sorry. Contemplating your open.
behind.
Yeah, I'm not going to go back. Thatcham Baptist Church grant application. This is actually considering an application on the good exchange. This is following the quote we had from the chair of the food bank, who is also a member of the Thatcham Baptist Church. The application and a copy of the good exchange is obviously in your pack. The amount that they require to get their projected total is relatively minimal. I would be suggesting to committee that if we were minded to assist in this particular matter, then we take this from the community projects fund rather than the main grants fund. There is 8,000 available in that reserve, and I would be suggesting a figure of £250, which is the normal amount that we have from the community projects fund. If we then get matched by the good exchange, that gets them 500, which gets virtually to their objective. Any
Just one, it was raised at a previous meeting that there was some concern from the public that town council money was being spent outside the boundaries of the town council and may not be funded for residents. This is actually within the area of Thatcham, and it's for residents within the area.
the Thatcham Baptist Church is within the
Exactly. So the applicant is within our boundaries,
the applicants within the boundary.
and the works that they will undertake will be, one would assume, the church in the boundary. Therefore, we are covered by that legislation.
I think we did clarify that and following the previous meeting though, and we're not actually restricted to making this grants within the area, so probably not. I actually see any problem with what is being proposed. Any other questions?
Yeah, just clarity if I can, it's probably moving stupid. I'm not clear on the figures. What are they trying to raise? What have they raised and what are we proposing to contribute? My maths isn't quite working.
Please do.
The total project cost was 9,200. This report is generated when the application is uploaded to the exchange. The live balance as of today is £599.50. That's what they need to raise to fulfil the
599 spot. Yeah. So we won't quite get to that. We'll be 250 and match again. So it's still a little bit short.
The committee is minded to do £299.
Are we allowed to?
We can take it from the main class.
We have lots of flexibility.
We are the spending committee.
No, I'd like to.
I'm more than happy to support that.
Yeah.
So proposal is that the part of whatever 509. So that's a really strong point for
The ex-bank manager.
actually then get them to the across the line with the double matching. I'm certainly happy to accept your proposal, Justin. I'm happy to second it. Those in favour? Thank you. Next item, hallelujah! Thatcham Library. So we are noting that the accessible toilet, which I think we first started talking about 4 years ago, certainly three and a bit years ago, is now going ahead. So that is merely to note that is going through, which is excellent. We have now reached the witching hour where I have to go and provide some support to my daughter. So my apologies for vacating the chair before the final item is concluded, but I would ask the chair people to be so kind as to take the chair for the item 12, and I shall leave you and leave you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wade. Enjoy. Thank you.
Tree line width.
It's what we do, therefore, yes, that's the.
Yeah.
That's
Tom,
That's not sure. Just take a moment for everybody.
right.
Yeah. So we are moving to item number 12. And I think at this point, I'll just hand over to the attorney, see if there are any points you'd like to raise. And would you be quite happy once you've finished your introduction, would you be quite happy to take it page by page, or would you like to process this, because it's quite a long list of things to be done?
Yep. So if we do it report by report, and if I scroll through and if there's any queries on any of the post payments, I'm happy to
No problem at all.
give explanation.
Okay, so it's little one.
So it's the reports, the abracadabra leaflet distributions is the first one looking at.
Yep.
Just shout if there's anything that I can.
So that's the top of page 3275 for those who have the agendas in front of them. Yeah. Does any members have any questions on that page? Okay. Moving over to this next page. Members have any questions or things you'd like to bring to anyone's attention? Not a problem. Moving on to page 3277. Yeah, this is pretty straightforward stuff for the committee. Is keeping us abreast of what we're actually. Moving on to 3278. Nothing to be raised on that one. See. And 3279. 3280. 3281. 3282 and 3283. Generally happy with that. Excellent. Little two to receive and note the details of pre-authorized payments. Again, standardized list. That we have. Is there anything that you think members need to be brought to their attention?
No, they're all general.
Nothing stands out unexpected.
One question,
Of course.
you made a payment to Whitebone for a cigarette bin. Why have you got a cigarette bin? And
What could you, what page, so the
what?
3281.
This time of the non-smoker, I don't mind smoking socially, that's the word I'm.
Is for the Jubilee Garden.
Ah.
Yeah, there was one in there prior to it being refurbished.
Right.
So
The people go out there and have a cigarette.
they do, a lot of people use it in their sort of lunch breaks and things from the various places around here.
And then having dog ends all over the ground.
Yeah. Perhaps we should consider having a vape then. But it's a completely different kind of world.
Oh, so, okay. So they're getting their mental health stimulated by nicotine, okay.
There's nothing raised by any members effectively on that one. Okay. Little 3 to receive and note bank reconciliation.
Sorry, the repair to the skate park, was that insurable or was that something that we just had to, wear and tear, or was it just some?
Both wear and tear.
Okay. There's nothing raised under 3. We'll move on to Romans 4. Members, have any questions on that item? Okay, and then we'll move on to Romans 5. And that is the green paper for members who are
Roman 6.
5.
There is no number 6.
On your front, no, sorry, it's on your Roman.
So my.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, that's not a problem. Yeah, and that's as it's okay. If the members have anything that they'd like to raise on that, or we ought to catch up. Just take a moment for members to absorb all the information.
Yeah. So on the document we had earlier, we had close brothers at 100, I suppose once but the interest already credited, £1,037 whatever it was, and this document 98,720.
Could you just clarify for the class which paper?
You're right, reconciliations.
We'll check that with the finance manager.
Yeah, so that's, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so
Do you have the specific point? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, time to go between.
Well, it's interest related.
Yeah.
But I will ask the.
Is that something you could just ping to members rather than coming back?
Sure.
The explanation that would be.
same with Nationwide, it's different as well. So Newbury's the same. But Nationwide and Close Brothers are different from the paper, which was the Treasury Management Plan paper.
Yeah. It may be the difference between when papers were drafted and interest paid, but the clerk will clarify. Members will have that information circulated. If it is an issue, I'm sure it'll be brought to the next FMGP for clarification. If it's an urgent thing, then of course bring it to full council, just make members if necessary. Okay. Right. Are we nearly there, everyone? I see a pen moving.
An interesting note, I just.
Okay, all right. I think at that point, yeah.
Item 12.
Okay, so we're going to go from 1 to 5. All of item is one job lot. Can I propose that we accept the report with the questions and queries that have been raised to be clarified at a further date. Could I have a seconder, please? And all those in favour? There's no one against, and that be carried. And at that point, I thank everyone for coming this evening and declare that the meeting is now formally closed. Thank you.
Thank you.